So last week, the final episode of Star Wars Ahsoka premiered, and of course I did my full review of that episode, but you know what? It's time to talk about the entire season as a whole. So some quick summary thoughts before we go in talking about each individual episode. Timestamps will be down below if you would like to jump ahead, but I thought this was a great season. I think it did a great job telling the story that they wanted to tell. It did leave some threads loose at the end, but that was, I think, on purpose. A cliffhanger, if you will. Because, while those are loose threads, they're not loose threads, if you know what I mean. They're dangling threads, things to continue the story, but the structure of the season is all complete. All the threads that needed to be firmly, and I guess I'm using my sewing metaphor, but basically the story that they needed to tell for season 1 to work, those story threads were all completed. So, if you will, those sections of the quilt are done. But there's other sections still out there. Sections that we're going to get later before we get the entire quilt that is the season, or the series as a whole. So I think I got my sewing metaphor back on track. But yeah, like I said, I think they did a great job. They completed the story they needed to tell for season 1, but they also set up the story that's going to happen a little bit in season 2, but also the overarching story as well, containing all that. They did such a good job telling that all, that I really need to just quit talking about it in the abstract and start talking about it in the specifics. So we're going to move on with part 1, and so enjoy the rest of this video. So the first 2 episodes of Star Wars Ahsoka are out now, and they are great, amazing. And this is going to be a quick spoiler-free section as my introduction to basically everything, but I will be saying I'll be spinning off each segment of this review, so each individual episode segment, into its own review, and that'll be coming out tomorrow and the day after, so stay tuned for that. I'll be adding a little something as well, so it won't be entirely the same as this video, as I'll be focusing a little more on the episodes as a whole, but it will basically be a lot of the same stuff, but with some more specific stuff. But anyhow, going back to my review proper, like I said, the episodes were great and amazing. They, I think, very good job in translating the Rebels characters to live action, and also introducing to us where all these characters are at the start of the show. And I think they also did a very good job of setting up the stakes of the episode, what each character is after. So this is going to get into kind of spoiler section, but we definitely tell, Morgan Elsbeth, she was actually that character actually appeared in the episode of The Jedi as the Mandalorian, so I would say do watch that one if you wanted a little extra context, but they did a good job of setting all that stuff up, but you don't need that to understand what's going on here, but still that was a good episode anyhow. But as I was saying, it's set up that basically she's looking for Thrawn. Why? Not quite sure. But we know that some of the characters that she's working with, well, some of them are, they're just wanting money. Some of them are, they're wanting to restore the Empire. Some wanting power. All their character motivations for our antagonists have been established. And the same thing for our heroes. For Hera, it's definitely established. Sure, she wants to find Ezra, but more than anything, you can definitely tell she wants to potentially stop a second war with the return of Grand Admiral Thrawn. But you can definitely tell she also very much wants, well, Thrawn's out there, is Ezra still out there? Like, that's pretty much what she said as soon as she was caught up on this. Ahsoka's motivations may be a bit more clear, but again, I think a lot of it is still connected. Prevent the idea of another war and return of Grand Admiral Thrawn. But it'll be also, hopefully, finding Ezra. But with Sabine, her character motivations, it's not about finding Thrawn or stopping a war. It's about finding Ezra. It is without a doubt. That is what's motivating her character as set up in the first 2 episodes, without a doubt. And of course, they established other stuff, such as a conflict between Sabine and Ahsoka that both comes from their own stubbornness, which actually makes a lot of sense. And I do hope they explore it more, but I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that in my individual episode segments. But like I said, they did a great job setting up all these character motivations, setting up the story, and should I even mention, it basically opened up with a crawl. Not quite the same, but more like, kind of a little bit take Solo and the regular crawl, mesh it together, and it was actually quite fascinating. Really, I did like another way of just opening up the story, setting the ground stage for anyone who's watching. And that's actually some of the stuff when they don't do an opening call that I missed, because you can do it in different ways. Like the Clone Wars have basically a newsreel at the beginning of each episode. I do like it when, yeah, I guess like I'm saying, I just like it when they do that, because that's something that's uniquely Star Wars. Well, not uniquely. George Lucas was inspired by the Flash Gordon serials, but the point still being, there's something about that just sets things up. Kind of stuff like, well, how are we going to solve in the story otherwise? But the audience doesn't need to know it. But like I said, they've done a great job with that. But let's actually move on to talking about episode 1, which is of course entitled Part 1, Master and Apprentice. And I think that title is actually twofold. We have the Master Apprentice of, I forget their names, but the antagonist, so a former Jedi student, and then, former Jedi, not student, but former Jedi, and then the person he's taken under his wing as his Padawan. I forget her name as well. That's probably my big thing, I always forget names. There's some reference to that, because they are the ones who spring Morgan Esben from the New Republic, and also totally destroy the crew of an entire ship. Though I would say the captain of that ship, he was right to suspect that they weren't Jedi. Well, he still probably shouldn't have let them on the ship. He called their bluff, but he was expecting them to be con artists, not, a fallen Jedi and his apprentice. So the captain did make a mistake there, but he was right. He just made the wrong judgment call. But you know what? He still, I think, overall, he made a good decision. Just how was he supposed to know it was going to be a fallen Jedi? I mean, that is hard to figure out. But, it's also referring to Ahsoka and Sabine, because it is confirmed that Ahsoka did try to teach, Sabine in the Jedi ways. Now, what motivated that we still haven't decided, we haven't been reviewed neither in this episode or in episode 2. Though I have a suspicion, but I'll talk about that when I talk about episode 2, because they talk more about the relationship in that episode as well, because it's nice I think with the themes of that episode as well. But I did like how they addressed that, and also what I'm showing is that it fell apart because, like I mentioned earlier in my overarching review, is each individual character's own stubbornness. So basically I think it fell down to they were unable to properly communicate with each other. That's my guess. But yeah, a lot of things are set up. I hope I'm not mixing the episodes up in my head, but like we actually get to see Sabine duel against the fallen Jedi's apprentice, and well, she holds her own pretty well. I mean, she is an expert fighter, so it does make sense. And she was, as we find out, trained by Ahsoka as well, but she still she's not using the Force during this fight. And she does lose, but at the same time, she's also probably a bit rusty. There's like her own Mandalorian arm was basically shoved off to the side, so it sounds like she hasn't been keeping up with her fighting, but for someone who hasn't been keeping up with her fighting, she did a pretty good job holding her own. Of course, she does get a pretty severe wound. Looks like she might be missing a liver now. But, she's taken to the hospital, and that's episode 2. But the thing is, basically, Ahsoka finds a map that might be leading the way to Thrawn. What's it do with maps for leading the way to characters? Like, sometimes it does make sense, like in the case of Luke, where they knew where he went, they just didn't know where that place was. But how is this map going to be leading to Thrawn? Like, did they suspect that, okay, the Purgo brought Thrawn to this place, so therefore we need to look for how to get to this place? I guess, but that's like my only qualms like that. Why do they know this map will lead them to Thrawn? I honestly hope they answer that. But perhaps, maybe something else is going on as well. Maybe Morgan Esben has own plans and is just pretending to use Thrawn to advance her own agenda. I don't know. But I don't think so, but it could happen. But like I said, it's kind of weird. And I don't know how that map is actually going to lead to Thrawn, and why it's leading to Thrawn. Like, why do they suspect he's there? In the second part, the episode 2, entitled Part 2, Toil and Trouble, continues pretty much where Part 1 left off. Makes sense. I have a feeling that's how this series is going to be structured, very much like a Mandalorian is, with each individual chapter feeding into each next chapter. So that makes sense, but like I said, it picks up right away, and actually, Hera and Ahsoka go to Krella to basically investigate one of the former shipyards owned by Morgan Elsbeth. Was that the character's name, or was that the actor's name? Again, I can't remember. Should probably look this stuff up ahead of time. But anyhow, like I was saying, they investigate, and no, they're suspicious, which makes sense, and and they get really suspicious when they see a super big hyperdrive from a super star destroyer, and it's apparently classified, and Hera being general was like, I should know about this. And turns out the only person there who was being honest was one of the droids, because they also asked about one of the droids, and that's how they got the clue. And then one of the side characters literally screams for the Empire and starts shooting at them. Ahsoka disarms them, and there's a brief firefight, but and then New Republic does come and arrest them. But the thing is, like, I think Hera asked the question, like, what caused him to be so loyal to the Empire? And Ahsoka says greed. I think that's who said that. I hope I didn't get them mixed up. But the thing is, basically the director of the facility, like, he pretty much said his loyalty is to his investors, i.e. who is paying him. So he basically told them up front, if you don't pay me more than anybody else, I'll be more loyal to you. They were warned in a sense. So basically the Empire or Imperial Line factions are paying these people good money to get parts. And, while they were unable to stop the hyperdrive from being sent, Chopper was able to put a check on it after Hera told him to, otherwise he was willing just to shoot it down and let it land on the city. Yep, Chopper was still Chopper. Meanwhile, during that, Ahsoka is actually dueling an Inquisitor along with another assassin droid, which are HK droids, by the way. But Inquisitor, we saw this Inquisitor, but like, what brings him here? Loyalty to the Empire, search for power, like, what about it? More interesting questions that I hope we get explored later on. But yeah, during all this, Sabine's actually recovering, and there's a conversation she has with Hu Yang. So, in case you don't know, Hu Yang is a ancient Jedi droid who basically helps instruct Jedi in building their lightsabers, and also helps them build it as well. He actually appeared in the Younglings arc of the Clone Wars. Nice to see him back. But anyhow, there's a conversation, and he does confirm what a lot of us were wondering, whether or not Sabine was Force sensitive or not. And what he says is, in all his experience, she has like the least, I don't think he said ability, but basically the least talent in the Force. Connective, I forget the exact wording, but basically confirms that she does not have any latent or natural ability in the Force. Of course, that doesn't mean it can't be learned, and maybe that's what's going to happen as her character develops. But this is the point where I want to wonder, like, why did she agree to train in the ways of the Jedi under Ahsoka? Why? Again, I'm wondering, could it be connected with Ezra and feeling that she needs to live up, not necessarily to his legacy, but what he's expecting of her? And granted, she could be kind of wrong in what he's expecting. Very possible. She seems to have some very conflicting emotions, which are impacting her abilities. I do think they're impacting her, because, like, they're impacting her, but not in the same way as somebody who is emotionally compromised, more of, you know, maybe not always thinking the most clearly and all that. But like, she's still seeing very clear, like, she's able to figure out what was going on and unlocks the map before it was stolen from her by the antagonist. But like I said, that actually happened in episode 1. I probably should have addressed that back then. But yeah, so the points basically that I'm trying to make, I guess, is she is preoccupied with Ezra more than anyone else, or anything else really, and I wonder if that could be negatively impacting her, because she's so preoccupied, like, she's not seeing the bigger picture. For example, in episode 1, sounds like it was like the anniversary of either the end of the Empire or the liberation of Saw. I don't remember exactly which, but for the Saw, practically the same thing, because the Empire never came back. Sounded like they were actually reviewing the meal that we saw in Star Wars Rebels, and So Governor Rosati, from Rebels, by the way, nice that they brought him back and he's still Governor of Rosal. Sounds like he's revealing it and Sabine's to be one of the speakers, but she ducks out and basically runs away from it. Again, I think preoccupied with Ezra and really doesn't really want to focus on anything else. But I do wonder if she was the artist for it. Probably so. But that's like I was saying, she seems to be very preoccupied with the past and it seems to be holding her back. And maybe through her story development, her character development, she'll be able to let go, if you will, let go of what's holding her back. Not forget, not anything like that, but more of like, okay, this is a part of me, and I can live with it. More, maybe something like that. Again, I'm not quite sure. There's a lot to be explored, but also, near the end of the episode, she cuts her hair and puts her Mandalorian armor back on too. Also, that's another thing. How does she feel the fact that the Mandalorian people have been practically wiped out? Like, how does she feel about that? Is that going to play out onto her character story? So much going on, so many interesting things brought up in just these 2 episodes. It is really quite impressive, everything that they've thrown in here, and so much more to discuss. Because this is also Dave Filoni's first live-action series. Yes, he's written and directed in The Mandalorian before, but this is his own series that's in live-action. I think he did a pretty good job. I know some people might have been very concerned about fan service, but yes, there's some. Sure, like the, in episode 1, Home 1 is mentioned. Okay, if you don't know anything, but that's Admiral Akbar's ship in Return of the Jedi. Okay, that's fun to know. And if you don't know it, okay, it's just a New Republic ship called Home 1. It doesn't need to be much more than that, but it is just a little reference. And it's actually very done well, makes sense. And like I said, nearly all the, quote-unquote, fan service in here, which is pretty minor if you ignore the fact that we got some legacy characters going on, but it's all pretty minor. It contributes to the story. Like, okay, could it have been any other New Republic ship? Sure. Being the Home one doesn't negatively impact the story, nor does it improve it. It's just neutral. By the way, I'm putting out an entire video about fan service. Do check that out when it goes live. But as I was saying, that's an inherently neutral fan service. Like, yeah, they could have made up a new ship or not. They're still early in the stage of the New Republic, so a lot of Rebel ships probably will still be in service. So using one that we know, no problem in my opinion. And there's other elements of not like minor fan service, but a lot of it is, I think, a part of the world building. Like they could have done a different governor for Lasar, but they kept the one who helped liberate Lasar from the Empire, who stood up against the Empire. That's a good choice. Sure, they could have somebody new, and maybe he probably should think about retirement, but like, also continuity of leadership, he's probably well respected by the people itself for being a part of the rebels and liberate their plan from the Empire, so of course it makes sense he probably kept on getting elected, because we don't even know how government works on us all. But that's neither here or there, but like, that's another thing, like, oh, fun is a thing, but if you don't know, it doesn't negatively impact. And that's a very good use of Easter eggs or fan service, if you will. Just a little bit of world building, doesn't need to do too much. And even the more obvious stuff, like, okay, does Ahsoka need to be having Huyang on this adventure? Probably not, but probably so, we don't know. Identifying Jedi Knights, that's something that Huyang is skilled at, but that's the only thing he's good at. But then again, how many people even know who Huyang is? I bet a lot of people watching this for the first time don't even realize that Huyang is a returning character from Star Wars: The Clone Wars. And I think that's the thing is, there's no fan service here. Sure, there's some fan service elements, but it's not fan service. It's just good storytelling, bringing in elements from previous stories and melding it together to contribute to both the world building, but also setting up character dynamics and character stories. Like I said, there's so much to go with, but I think I'm going to conclude with a little bit on the ending of the episode. The episode ends, we see that basically like a massive hyperdrive ring is being built, probably to get in that other galaxy where Sauron is again. How do they know Sauron is actually there? I do have some skeptical thoughts about that. But one interesting thing I also put out to that is there was a conversation between Morgan Elsbeth and that fallen Jedi. Sure, his apprentice and that Inquisitor there as well, which the name was dropped, but I can't remember the Inquisitor's name, but the thing is, the fallen Jedi, he senses somebody with a small profile in the Force, but lots of determination. That's not Ahsoka. That's Sabine. That's what I'm thinking. He's sensing Sabine, and that Sabine might be a threat to their plans. And I have feeling Morgan Elsbeth is thinking it's more likely to be Ahsoka. I don't know why, I just have that feeling. So like I said in my full review of the first 2 episodes of Star Wars Ahsoka, I'm talking about each individual episode a little bit separately. So this video is all going to be about episode 1, Master and Apprentice. So like I mentioned in my main review, that title is, I think, twofold. It's referring both to the Fallen Jedi character and his apprentice, I forget their names, but also to Ahsoka and Sabine, where it's established that they had at once a Master-Padawan relationship. And it's very much implied they fell apart due to mutual stubbornness on both of them. Doesn't make some sense. And it does seem like part of the story, this dipping into a little bit of episode 2, is setting up that they're going to be recovering that relationship. That Ahsoka will continue to train Sabine in the Jedi ways. Now, it is established that that being Sabine has very little natural talent or abilities with the Force. But that doesn't mean that stuff can't be developed. Because as Kanan Jarrus said in Charles of the Darksaber back in Star Wars Rebels, when, I think that was the episode, when Hera questioned him, does Sabine not having the Force, negatively impact her ability to wield the Darksaber? Something along those lines. Kanan effectively responds, no, everyone has the Force, just how open you are to it. So I have a feeling maybe, well, she may never be able to wield the Force like a Jedi, maybe she'll be able to sense the Force like Chewie does in Rogue One. But that's touching a little bit on the future and a little bit on episode 2 as well, because that's where they confirmed that, well, Huyang confirmed that Sabine did not have much talent in the Force. But yeah, so that is one part of the episode, a very good part. But also, another thing that they very much set up is character motivations. Let's just get out of the way. With Sabine, her character motivations are about finding Ezra more than any other character. Ahsoka and Hera also want to find Ezra, but they also are looking at the bigger picture, preventing Thrawn's return, preventing another war. They're seeing the bigger picture, while it seems like Sabine is much more focused on just finding Ezra. And in fact, she's living in Ezra's old communications tower as well, so she's kind of stuck in the past a little bit, longing for Ezra, if you will. I don't necessarily, it's hard to tell. Is it, longing as, you would for a long-lost sibling, or longing as somebody you fell in love with? Like, it's hard to say. Definitely, sure, there's a line with a hologram recording of Ezra that confirmed that he, at least at the time that was recorded, he saw it as a sibling relationship between them, even though he did try to flirt with her in the first season of Rebels, but that ended pretty quickly as he matured. But at the same time, it's been a while, and they do sometimes say, distance makes the heart grow fond, or something along those lines, so maybe, Sabine's feelings towards Ezra has changed over the years. Or maybe, just simply, important person of life was like a brother to her, and she misses him. It could be as simple as that. But the thing is, it's definitely that relationship, wherever form it's going to take, is, in a sense, the major stumbling block for Sabine's character arc is what I'm sensing. But like I said, another thing to notice about Sabine's character setup as well, her mandatory armor is tucked off to the side as well. So kind of showing, where not necessarily her priorities lie, but her character is starting. Kind of stuck in the past, very much focused on Ezra more than anything else. Kind of going through a rebel phase for her right now, especially given the music choice she chose when she was basically running away from a ceremony that she was invited to be a speaker on. And of course, sure, the E-Wing pilots do that to get away. They do try to stop her, but they're like, okay, you good. Okay, yeah, we tried our best. Goodbye. Like they tried, but it was more like, hey, you kind of expected but like they didn't do much to stop her. Like probably because they knew she didn't want to be there. There was nothing they could do, so they just did their best. So that was a fun little scene there. But like I said, character motivations, the antagonist motivations are also established. Which for Morgan Elsbeth, I forget if that's the character's name or the actor, but she is very much finding Thrawn, I think. Again, I'm not quite sure based on some developments later on in episode 2, but that's what it's set up as. Then we have the fallen Jedi character, and I forget his name and his apprentice, I forget her name as well, but he's definitely after Pow. Finding Thrawn is a good bonus, I think, for him, but he's after Pow and probably same thing with his apprentice. And there's a few other characters, but again, that goes into in episode 2. But all our character motivations are established. What is driving them on this search for this map that's going to lead them to Grand Admiral Thrawn? Though I do have to ask, why is this map going to lead to Thrawn? Probably my only complaint. Yes. We had a map to Luke Skywalker in the sequel trilogy, but that wasn't a map to Luke Skywalker. That was a map to the First Jedi Temple where everyone suspected Luke went to. So why did they suspect Thrawn go to this location? That is what I am wondering. I have a feeling it's going to be answered. Probably something to do with the Purgo and some ancient alien civilization in the Star Wars galaxy. That's my best guess. But that's kind of my overall thoughts. I think they did a very good job setting up character motivation, setting up where all that stuff is. I could talk about more plot-related stuff, but that's not what I really wanted to focus on in this section. I wanted to focus more on these characters and the setup for the different storyline that they have going. So like I mentioned in my main review of the first 2 episodes of Star Wars Ahsoka, I thought I would take a moment to talk about each episode individually in their own video, and today I'll be talking about episode 2, Toil and Trouble. Which, by the way, the fact that Morgan Elsbeth, I forget if that character is I'm trying to say if that's the character's name or the actor's name. I should have looked it up by now after recording 3 videos. But anyhow, the fact that she is a Dathomirian witch kind of fits nicely because it's often, double, Toil and Trouble is associated with witches. I think Shakespeare's Hamlet is where that guy started. But I did kind of like, okay, I see what you did there a little bit. But also Toil and Trouble. So Toil, you're toiling about. And yeah, there's some of that going on, you got the people working at that, dockyard on Corellia. They're toiling, just working, doing that stuff. But also, you got toiling in the sense of, trying to figure stuff out, in a sense, that kind of stuff is going on. But trouble, well, yeah, there's a lot of trouble. I mean, you got Imperial still working within the New Republic, which is addressed, just like it was in The Mandalorian. It's addressed here again as well. And of course, this time we actually see some consequences of that, which actually we did appreciate, and New Republic Security responding accordingly. But like one nice thing to note is, it's established that a lot of these the dockyard workers, management and all that, said, yeah, their loyalty is to their investors. Didn't say to the New Republic, said to the investors. Also didn't say to the Empire, but guess who's investing in them? Morgan Elsbeth and the Empire. So of course, they're going to side with the Empire because guess who's paying them more money? And like I said earlier, I still don't know if Morgan Elsbeth's character, I'm pretty sure Morgan Elsbeth, the actor, is actually looking for Thrawn, looking for something else, because like, how does she know Thrawn is in that location, which the map is revealed to be going to another galaxy? Interesting. Is it going to be one of the satellite galaxies? Probably so. But like, how, and apparently there's like a temple built by some ancient alien civilization from that galaxy. Is they able to use that in the map to find the way there? But like, how do they know Thrawn is there? I suspect something else is going on. Or maybe she knows something about the Pearl Girl that we don't know yet. That is very much a possibility, and probably the way it's going to go. But yeah, there's a lot of great stuff. Like, oh man, there's a scene where, Hera and Chopper are trying to stop a ship that's carrying a massive, hyperdrive core from a super star destroyer that they're going to be probably using to try to get to the other galaxy. They don't respond to start opening fire, and so what does Chopper want to do? Well, he wants to return fire, and just do that, and let it drop on the dockyard. Chopper never changes. He wants to commit war crimes. Hera is like, no, we'll put a tracker on it instead. We don't want you to destroy the dockyard. And Chopper's disappointed. But yeah, Chopper will never change. So I gotta say, when Chopper finds the tracker, he's searching for it, and like accuses Hera of touching his stuff, but funny, but she suggests checking under a spare power cell or something, I think it was. But anyhow, when it sounded like he said, found it. It really did sound like that, which I gotta say was amazing. But like I said, that scene with Chopper was so perfect. Also, Ahsoka got to duel another Inquisitor again as well, and that's just minor, but it was nice to see her, basically in form. Good to see that, so that she still has it. Not that we needed that confirmed or anything, but it's nice to see, and also establish this, that the antagonists and Imperial line factions, some of them are former Imperials, but are they all from Imperials? Because that fallen Jedi, I don't know if he's actually after Imperial power. Again, I don't know. There's so many questions going on. And Morgan Elsbeth, sure, she's a former Imperial, but I feel like something else is going on. It's just a gut instinct. But probably the main thing is after Sabine recovers from her injuries sustained when she actually fought the fallen Jedi's apprentice, she goes back to the tower and she sets out her Mandalorian armor and cuts her hair and puts her Mandalorian armor back on again, after having a nice talk with Hu Ying as well, which I think helps inspire her to basically return both, probably to the kind of like a Mandalorian Jedi way, I guess. I honestly don't know how that's going to be developed, especially given some of the stuff we see in the Mandalorian, and Sabine is Mandalorian. Will they be addressing any of that too? How would that impact her characterization? But again, hard to say, there's so much going on. Could go really either way, and I think that's going to be so exciting to see. But when she cut her hair, it actually was very reminiscent of when Kanan cut his hair in Star Wars Rebels. That makes me nervous about Sabine's character. She's sitting down same way. Sure, she doesn't have a lightsaber in front of her, she has some Mandalorian helmet. But like, her lightsaber is Ezra's lightsaber, but her own tinkering on it. But like, same way, held the knife the same way. Something like that. And then when she cut her hair, like, when Kanan did that, he did not survive the mission. So, I doubt it, but it also makes me wonder. Cause the parallels are pretty similar. But that's all I got for episode 2. Some interesting thoughts, some stuff I didn't address in my main review. So the third episode of Star Wars Ahsoka has dropped, it being part 3, Time to Fly. So this is, it felt shorter than part 1 and part 2 did, but this one did, I think, a lot more to advance the plot. Like I kind of addressed in my part 1 review and part 2 review, is that very much that was more about setting things up. Setting up the events, character motivations, catching up people who are not familiar with Star Wars Rebels, which, by the way, they did a very good job in doing that, if I didn't say so already. So this is truly getting into a lot of the actual story of the episode. Ahsoka, Sabine, Hu Yang, they're going to the nav system, to the planet, the name I already forgot, to investigate. Hera is requesting New Republic support to, send a detachment there to also investigate, support Ahsoka and all that. Of course, politics keeps it off. She doesn't get permission from the Senate subcommittee to do so. Does sound like Mom Mothma is supportive of her, which makes sense. They fought in the rebellion together. But the other senators, who probably sat things out, are not so willing, including one Senator Kazuna. People who watch Star Wars Rebels might be familiar with that name. Now, I would have to say, is that fan service? Yes it is. But it's good fan service because, okay, if you know that he's the father of the main character in Star Wars Resistance, great. If you don't, also great, doesn't matter. The fact that it's a name we're familiar with means nothing in the story. It's just like, ooh, fun little detail to those of us who have seen other Star Wars media. If we haven't, it's just a new name. And that's what I've been seeing a lot of in Ahsoka. They've been using fan service in such a good way. Sometimes creators, I think, struggle a little bit with fan service, and I think largely Star Wars has done it pretty okay. Other people do disagree with me. However, I do feel like, especially in Ahsoka, and following in line from Star Wars Andor, these two shows are doing fan service in such a strong and good way, where it's subtle, it's integrated into the story. you don't even notice that you are getting fan service. Like this, it's often like Andor was often like the little things, like a KX security droid. Very little. Was that fan service? Yes. But did it make sense? Yes, it did as well. And same thing here. Yeah, it makes sense. We knew from Star Wars Resistance that Kaz's father was a senator. So it makes sense that if we get media from before that time period, that potentially Kaz's father would appear as a senator. And thus he is. It makes perfect sense. And even if you didn't know that, it's a fun new senator. Which is so great. In fact, that is probably one of the highlights of this episode for me. That successful integration of fan service into the story, which I'm hoping to see more of. Those fun details, but also yet telling the story, using that stuff to help advance the story. And speaking of the story, we get some other good fan service as well, which might be playing a role later, because we actually get to see Hero's son Jason. We actually get to see it, and we find out that he does want to be a Jedi, which, of course, we know what happens later on in the timeline, but at the same time, it's like, could that be playing a role in the story somehow? Is it more than just a fun little Easter egg? Is it in fan service? Is it setting up something else as well? I think there's a good chance it might be, because this episode firmly establishes that Sabine does not have much, if any, natural talent in the Force, but she definitely does have determination. That is one thing they do make clear. It's not from a lack of effort on Sabine's part, but she's still learning. For her, like, they address that she picks up combat techniques, skills very easy, but the connecting with the Force itself that she doesn't pick up on. And perhaps maybe part of her story is like there'll be a scene where Jason uses the Force and maybe Sabine feels a little jealous that it comes naturally to him. I wonder if that could be something going on in the later episode which will contribute to both the stories, but especially Sabine's story since she is the second main character after Ahsoka. I have a feeling we are going to get Ahsoka's character story, but I have a feeling like we're not quite there yet. I don't think we're going to really get her story to begin, like her character story, until she is confronted with the foreign Jedi that is in service to Morgan Elsbeth. I forget his name, but I have a feeling that's when her character story will truly begin. The seeds are being planted here and all that. Her getting maybe more back into the swing of things. But I have a feeling that confrontation is what's going to be the inciting moment in her character story. Sabine, we already know what's going, her story is already kind of set up. All that was happened in the last episode. This episode continues, especially the story about her learning to be a Jedi when she, like Ring has made pretty clear, has no natural talent in the Force. Because just like Ken said in Star Wars Rebels, Ahsoka repeats the same sentiment in this episode, that the Force is in all living creatures. And so that's, I think, very good for Sabine to hear, because she knows, like, okay, it's in her, she just maybe needs to find a way to connect with it. And maybe something with the Purgo will be that way, because guess what? The Purgo make an appearance. So, they make an appearance because they arrive in the NAB system and basically are almost immediately attacked by Morgan Elsbeth's goons, for lack of a better term. So, the foreign Jedi's Padawan, whose name I already forgot, and I literally just looked this up so I could remember. Give me a second. Okay, so I've looked up the name, so Hattie, I think, is the name, but the Padawan of Skull, I hope I'm pronouncing the names right. I'm just gonna say foreign Jedi and foreign Jedi's Padawan, because that's probably the best way, but anyhow. She leads basically a squadron of starfighters along with the Inquisitor Marok, and to intercept Ahsoka, Sabine. Well, they do eventually escape thanks to the Purgos, because eventually, though Morgan Elsbeth's ship, the Eye of Siren, which is a massive hyperdrive ring with triple laser embankments, do score pretty damaging hits. But anyhow, they do pursue, and Ahsoka and Sabine have to land on the planet. But on the way down there, they use a pack of Purgo as cover to get away and make a successful landing. Because then, of course, a bunch of hunters and all that are dispatched to find them in the forest. So that's probably going to be the next episode, because it wasn't just in this episode. But it makes sense with everything that's going on. But I think that's another example of fan service, and this one connected with Ezra because of the Pearl Girls, and I think gives some more indication of what's going on with the Pearl Girls, and also connects nicely with a line from Huyang where he talks about that the Jedi archives had records of ancient hyperlanes between galaxies that followed basically the known migratory routes of Pearl Girl, space whales in other words. But isn't that quite fascinating? All that connected together. Elements that might be considered fantasy by some are actually being an integral part of the story. And I think that Ahsoka is showing that you can tell a Star Wars series that does have a lot of fan service, but one that isn't only fan service, that actually has story, has heart to it, that's actually telling a story about what is going on. I think that's most of the stuff I needed to be addressed. No chopper war crime scenes. Can't have that in every episode. But yeah, like I said, lots of great stuff in this episode, advancing the story very nicely. Connecting, also alluding to the fact that there's a lot of former Imperials in the New Republic because of the nature of just needing that bureaucracy, but also alluding to a lot of stuff we've seen in both Mandalorian by the New Republic, but also just politics in general in Star Wars, how so many politicians are not really in it for the benefit of everyone. Sure, they may claim that, but when faced with a potential existential threat like Grand Admiral Thrawn, they're like, well, you just want to go find Ezra Jennison, dude, so no. Well, if Ezra's alive, then maybe Thrawn is. And wouldn't it be better to be safe than sorry when it comes to Thrawn returning to the galaxy? Not really a good argument to make. But at the same time, because of her cloud of judgment, if you will, Hera probably couldn't make the argument because, yeah, deep down she does want to find Ezra, which is a very important part to her. Yeah, she knows the threat that Thrawn would pose to the New Republic, but if, she goes to find Thrawn, Thrawn's no longer in the picture, no longer anything to worry about, and finds Ezra, she'd be perfectly happy with that too. Thrawn not being there would be only a bonus. So yeah, that's just some interesting stuff to take a note of. But there, I think, is going to be covering most of the stuff I wanted to address. There's obviously some stuff I'm missing. In fact, I'm pretty sure there's something I'm missing. So we can begin a discussion in the comment section down below. So last night, the 4th episode of Star Wars Ahsoka aired. So today I'm going to be giving you guys my quick spoiler-free review of Star Wars Ahsoka Part 4, Fallen Jedi. So the episode is not quite going the way I was expecting, though I do want to say my theory about Marok, yeah, I think I was correct, but go check out that video for that. But going back to the actual episode, I thought it was very well done, even though it didn't go the direction I was expecting, and the ending, it was a big surprise to me as well. But I think it was a very solid episode. It had good moments, dramatic action. It really had a little bit of everything that I think we were hoping for out of it. At least I was, I think. But overall, like I said, I thought it was a good episode and I very much enjoyed it. So last night, episode 4 of Star Wars Ahsoka premiered, that being part 4, Fallen Jedi. So if you haven't seen my spoiler-free review of it, it's a YouTube short. It'll be linked in the comment section down below and also up in the cards. So go check it out if you haven't seen it already, because this review will have spoilers. So let us just jump right in and just quick recap of my spoiler-free review. I thought it was a very good episode and nice twists and turns. So probably a good way to begin the episode is let's just talk about Hera's role in it. It's pretty minor, but basically herself and I think in Delphi Squadron, I think. So the New Republic fighter pilot that Mando in the Star Wars Mandalorian has made friends with, him, Hera, and then a few other pilots. No Zeb yet, interestingly enough. I'm surprised that hasn't come up yet. But anyhow, they basically go to help Ahsoka and Sabine, and also Huyang as well, because he's there. By the way, every time I hear Huyang's voice, especially in this episode, I can't help but think Scrooge McDuck, both are voiced by David Tennant, who also played Doctor Who, but I know him better from the reboot DuckTales show. But yeah, that's getting off track. So they basically are risking their careers to go help. And literally, I think Hera has a line like, once a rebel, always a rebel kind of deal. But yeah, it does make sense. And it's, like they know more what's going on than the New Republic does, because the New Republic is not really paying attention to their reports, because they're more there's too many senators probably interested in maintaining the status quo, not realizing by maintaining the status quo, they're going to be hurting the status quo. But that's how it always is, our heroes generally know more what's going on than anybody else, and that's how all all stories are generally structured. The one thing is, this could also explain why the New Republic was so adept, because all the good ones get frustrated and probably, get disciplined and either get demoted or leave, because I have a feeling there could be some consequences for this. But we just gotta wait and see on that. But they do arrive at the system right before, well, spoilers, right before the hyperdrive ring ship makes its jump. And they lose 2 of the X-Wings through that as well because of the energy, because the ship went right over them. Kind of showing furthermore why when a ship's going into hyperspace, you really don't want to be by it. But yeah, unless you have like an insanely good ship, obviously. But yeah, so they did show that pretty effectively. And then, yeah. So I'm not going to take more about that story, but they do get in contact with Huyang as well, so they get an update what's going on. But going back onto the planet, well, they're trying to repair the ship, but of course, Morgan Elsbin has Balin send Shin, Marok, and a bunch of people to stop them from stopping them. Does that make sense? Because it does to me. But so they do fight off their attackers, Ahsoka and Sabine. Pretty easy when it's, just the grunts. But when Shin and Marok get there, that's when it gets a bit more interesting. Obviously, Shin and Ahsoka duo once again, and Sabine and Marok duo. And Sabine defeats Marok. And, I was right, Marok is pretty much just Marok. He's there entirely to be camouflaged, an easy defeat for our heroes. What I was not expecting, but some people did, the fact that when he was defeated, he just burst into smoke. Makes me think he might have been Morgan Elsbin might have been using Night Sister magic to reanimate the corpse or something of a dead Inquisitor. That's the only thing that could make sense, or maybe something about his species too. I'm honestly not sure, but it was very unique. But some people were pointing that out as a possibility. But again, Marok is just Marok, like I predicted. My theory video where I discuss why I think that's the main reason, it came out 2 days ago if I remember correctly. 2 or 3 days ago. It'll be linked down in the cards and in the description as well if you want to go check it out. Because guess what? It still holds water and it's no longer a theory. Maybe I should change it to my Star Wars Explain playlist instead of my Star Wars Theory sub playlist because I got it correct. But going back to the episode, so Shin and Sabine keep on dueling, and Sabine both uses Mandalorian techniques and also Jedi techniques in fighting Shin, though Shin does eventually flee the battle, which is actually kind of interesting. Like, sure, Sabine was able to use a Mandalorian technique to basically reverse the trend of the battle near the end, but why did Shin flee? It's interesting to note. But anyhow, so at the place where the map was being read, Ahsoka and Balin duel. And of course, Balin, he's definitely, you can tell, he's actually trying to protect the map. Of course, here's me thinking, Ahsoka, you don't have to go after the map, just go after the transmitter. But then again, that would have ended the story a lot sooner, because, yeah, Balin wasn't protecting the transmitter. Just go after the transmitter. Oh, yeah, and also too, Sabine, if you didn't want to destroy the map, destroy the transmitter. It's so simple, so obvious, yet they don't do it. That's actually probably my only complaint, because that's the obvious thing. Destroy the transmitter. Without the transmitter, the ship doesn't get the hyperspace coordinates. But they didn't go that way, which, is understandable, because I couldn't advance the story. But that's where you can definitely tell plot is driving the plot more than character actions. It still is driving it because they didn't make the choice, but kind of the story that's being wanted to be told kind of seeps in a bit there a little more. Maybe have it like protected by a force field or something, I don't know, I feel like they could have just gone after the transmitter so easily, but they chose not to. Again, understandable why they didn't. The map is what they're going after, because without the map, they can always replace the transmitter, but they can't replace the map. Hence why why Sabine was threatening to destroy it, and Ahsoka ordered Sabine to destroy it. Of course, that doesn't quite work out, because one, Baylan pushes Ahsoka off the cliff, and he basically manipulates Sabine into giving him the map, basically by saying, "You want to find Ezra, don't you?" And it works, which does make sense. Sabine is not, I don't want to say she's emotionally compromised, but she's not emotionally stable, if you will. Because Baylan alludes to what happened to the Mandalorians, and sounds like Sabine's family did not come out of the Purge of Mandalore that great. Which is something we were wondering, because their home world was not Mandalore, but they could have been on it at the time, I don't know. And maybe for all we know, Sabine doesn't know what happened to them too. But there is a possibility that Sabine also feels responsible for this, so just further manipulation by Baylan to get, saying like, the only friend you have left is Ezra and you want to find him. Kinda almost forgetting about, Hera and Zeb, I'm just saying. But then again, when you're being manipulated by a fallen Jedi, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to get to the title, but there's more than one fallen Jedi in this episode, I'll just say that. Being manipulated, you can kind of understand why Sabine makes a choice. And it's not like Shin does try to choke Sabine, and Baylan stops her, because he promised her no harm, for now. I'm adding the for now, because, come on. But, like I said, makes sense, and they do handcuff Sabine, because obviously they don't truly trust her. It was a manipulation, not anything sincere they get Sabine to give up the map to them. And then, so, they basically all go to that other galaxy where they think Thrawn is. Again, I do wonder why they think this map. And I think that's because when I made this initial complaint, that was, I think, in the first 2 episodes, didn't quite understand the map, but, because, especially with the night of the last episode and a few other things I've pieced together, is very much, I think, because, well, they know the Purgo took Thrawn somewhere, and this map, I'm guessing, is basically shows the Purgo's migratory pattern, so that's why they think this way will work. But you know what? That actually makes good sense. So, it's not a map to Thrawn, it's a map of the Purgo's, migratory routes, which they think will lead them to Thrawn. Or will it? I do still wonder, is there more going on than even the villains realize? But we now gotta talk about the end of the episode, which is the most interesting thing. First of all, the transition was just trippy from the cliffs and the ocean to, was it the war between worlds? Definitely looked like it. Ahsoka wakes up there. Granted, I wonder if she was thinking in her head, not this place again. And then Anakin speaks. But Anakin looks off. I don't know if it's either, cause let's be real, they definitely DH Hayden Christensen there. They did a better job in Obi-Wan Kenobi. Even though he looked older than he should as a Padawan in that scene, he just looked better. But I wonder if that it's supposed to look off. Like, some people I know as a Mandalorian had some complaints about Luke, but looking like Luke was not an issue there. They got the actor who played Luke in that scene, first of all, they didn't even need to use they didn't even need to use CGI stuff on the face to make it look like that. The actor who was actually doing the performance that Mark Hamill, the Mark Hamill was involved, but the actor, I forget his name, he actually looks like a young Mark Hamill. They didn't need to do CGI. But here, I wonder if they're using it on purpose, because Anakin looked like to be in the Uncanny Valley. And then the music, okay, sounds like normal, and then fades to black, as we transition to the credits, and the music, it's not the heroic music we associate for Anakin. No, not at all. It's the music we associate with Darth Vader. So wherever this place Ahsoka is in, it's gonna be a test for her. That's what I'm thinking. Because one, the music, and two, Anakin looks off, and I wonder if that could be a signal to us that this is a test, us the audience. I could be wrong, but something feels off about it, and not just how Anakin looks. I think it has something to do with Vader and the dark side. But that's just my thought there. But getting back to the title, Fallen Jedi, who is that referring to? Baylan? Probably not Shin, because there's no indication that she was ever a member's order. Ahsoka? Anakin? all three, all four, Sabine? Is it all of them? Are they all being referred to as Fallen Jedi? Hard to say, but in the kind of prep phase for Ahsoka and Baylan's duel, Baylan mentions Anakin, Darth Vader, what he became. That not every member of the WGA lives to see that. So definitely, Anakin, I think, is, no, without a doubt, a Fallen Jedi. But so is Baylan. Fallen in a different way, but still fallen. And let's not forget Ahsoka as well. No, she didn't fall to the dark side like any others, but she's definitely, struggling with her identity, definitely her place in the galaxy, her place in the Force. So that is something to wonder. So I think there's a very strong chance that Fallen Jedi refers to all three Fallen Jedi that appear in this episode. The actual Fallen Jedi who were members of the Order before the Jedi Purge. I do think it refers to more than one character. But also, this makes me think something. Because we know when Ahsoka appears in the book of Boba Fett, yeah, of course it's there. Not in The Mandalorian, which make a little more sense because of the story being told there. But anyhow, the dialogue between her and Luke definitely sounds like, well, she's not ready to help Luke rebuild the Jedi Order. Definitely makes it sound like she's more at place with herself than she is here. I don't think she'll be fully, Ahsoka's wise like we saw in the epilogue of Star Wars Rebels at the end of season 1. But she's definitely going to be probably in a better place than she is right now, in one form or other. So I'm thinking this might take place before the Book of Boba Fett, just to make things trippy. Which also means Sabine does not know that there were survivors on Mandalore, so maybe there's hope for her family if her family actually didn't survive the Great Purge of Mandalore. It's interesting how this stuff is all wrapping together and offering some unique things and how those different elements are impacting our characters. It really is quite a good story that turn with good, like I said earlier, twists and turns. But of course, there's only 2 more episodes left, 5 and 6 if I remember correctly. Man, these short seasons go by very fast. But I do think we get some exciting development. I still don't think they will find Ezra, and I'm not sure they'll find Thrawn either. But then again, it all remains to be seen what's actually going to happen. But I think whatever's going to happen, Sabine's going to go on a spiritual journey through the Force, and somehow she's going to arrive, well, all the other characters arriving. Well, I have think Hera and the X-Wing pilots are going to hitch a ride with the Pearl Girl. That's how I think all our characters are going to get into this. You got the hyperdrive ring for the villains and Sabine. You have the warp between worlds for Ahsoka and her spiritual journey through the Force. And then you have the Pearl Girl for Hera. Because, Jason is right there. He says he has a bad feeling, but also, he's probably Force sensitive. So will he be the one that connects with the Pearl Girl and allows them to go there via the Pearl Girl? I think that would be fun. I hope that's what happens. Probably won't happen. No, my luck. No, it won't happen. But you know what? We just gotta wait and see. So part 5 of Star Wars Ahsoka aired last night. So this is gonna be my spoiler-free review of that episode. The episode's title being, Shadow Warrior. And so my full review will be coming out later today. But in short, I think this is my favorite episode so far. I think it's the best one, the strongest, whatever term you want to use. I think it was very well done, very exciting. There was a lot more into the mysteries of the Force. Not fully, but definitely introduces more mysteries of the Force as well. So that's going to be more of a subject for my full review. But again, this is an amazing episode. I really can't stress that enough. And really, you gotta just watch my spoiler-free review because I'm afraid of spoiling it if I talk about any more of what I liked about it because that's going to spoil the episode. So I hope to see you for my full review later. So last night, part 5 of Star Wars Ahsoka aired. The episode being called Shadow Warrior. If you would like to avoid spoilers, I did create a spoiler-free show that will be linked in the cards and the description down below. So if you want to avoid spoilers, check that out because this will be my spoiler review because there's so much to talk about, so many great things. But just to quickly summarize, this was, I think, the best episode so far, and it is also my favorite episode so far. There's still 3 more episodes that I could change, but yeah, I'm just gonna leave it there for now. But this was an amazing episode. This one was also not just written by Dave Filoni, but also directed by Dave Filoni as well, just to get that out of the way. But this episode is probably the most, delving into the mysteries of the Force, because at the end of last episode, Ahsoka ended up in the war between worlds. Well, this episode has basically three plot lines. The main one, in my opinion, is with Ahsoka in the war between worlds, and getting one last final lesson from her master, from Anakin Skywalker. Now, it's still up in the air. Was this, Anakin's essence in the Force? Was it just a projection of the Force? That's still a little bit up in there. Obviously, it was a projection of the Force, but was it truly Anakin? Or was it just the Force manifesting Anakin so Ahsoka could learn the lessons she needed to learn in order to complete the mission? Honestly, it could go either way, but my initial assumption that this might have been more like a dark side test, definitely not the case because of the musical cues at the end of the last episode. But again, that makes sense with the story that they were telling. Basically, Ahsoka that story, she resolves her guilt of, when she left her master, left the Jedi, and partially blames herself for Anakin's fall to the dark side. And a big part of her story is learning that she's not responsible for Anakin's downfall. And of course, they do it by several ways. First, it's just a fairly basic duel between them, sparring match they probably had many of times. And obviously, in that scenario, Ahsoka did not learn her lesson, so it goes into much more of a Force vision. Well, basically, it's a young Ahsoka fighting a battle. I'm not sure which battle it was. Ahsoka only had her one green lightsaber at the time, though. So it was early. I don't think it was Taff. But it could have been. Rex was there. But yeah, it was definitely an early one. But that's which battle is not important. Besides, it was one of the early ones, like I mentioned earlier. And the lesson that Anakin was trying to teach her. Now, there's essentially, a little bit of the lessons from the past that were being brought back to this vision for Ahsoka to help her learn the lesson, and then the overarching thing she needed to learn, that she was not responsible for her master's downfall, for her master's fall to the dark side. And eventually it ends with the Siege of Mandalore, which was the one Clone Wars battle where Anakin was not there, so he was there not knowing what was going on. Of course, Rex was there, and we do get Rex talking. Of course, granted, it's not quite the way I think we wanted, but that's still a possibility. There's 3 more episodes left. But, going back, basically Anakin does turn into Darth Vader, because it makes sense with how the Force vision was structured. And basically, in that duel with Darth Vader, that's when Ahsoka was finally able to accept that it was not her fault that Anakin fell to the dark side. And I think that contributes to things like those darker tendencies of him were always there to begin with. And when she, at the very end of the duel, she defeats Darkseid Anakin, so Vader, though not Suit Vader, even though Suit Vader does appear a little bit in the Force vision, but she does defeat him, but chooses not to kill him, i.e. taking the Jedi way. And that's, in that moment, she says she chooses to live. And that's also probably her choosing also to realize that she's not responsible for her master's fall. And at that point, Vader closes his eyes, opens back up, and it's Anakin's eyes once again. The Sith eyes are gone. I should have mentioned that a bit sooner. And then the Force vision ends, and Ahsoka is rescued from the ocean on Celos by Hera and the X-Wing pilots with I forget all their names. I should remember the main one because he also appeared in The Mandalorian. But they're there to help Hera with, find out what happened. And actually that's the kind of B story, if you will. So the A and B story occurring simultaneously. They're searching to figure out what happened. They do find Hu Yang, who is basically, basically lamenting the fact that he told Ahsoka and Sabine to stay together and that they never listen. Yeah, he's being himself there. But essentially, they were about to give up, not to mention that they dropped the line that Senator Organa can only cover for them so long. I really do like that call out to Leia there. But they eventually do get to the point where they're getting kind of frustrated, and and almost what you call it, when Jason, so Hera's son, heals lightsabers in the ocean. He is healing the duel that Ahsoka is having with Anakin in her Force vision. He is Force sensitive, and the main X-Wing pilot, again, why can't I remember his name? He's probably in the cast list if I went to bet. I'm just double checking. I should know this one. Carson Teva. I knew I would find his name eventually. But yeah, so he basically is kind of like confused when all this is going on, but then Hu Ying tells him that Jason's father was Kanan Jarrus and that, and has special abilities, and that basically clicks for him what's going on. Makes sense. And because of Jason, and also a little bit of Chopper's help too, they were able to get a better point, but that's near the end of the vision when Chopper was actually able to find Ahsoka. Because the vision was ending, she was returning from the War Between Worlds back to, the main Star Wars galaxy. And that kind of ends the first half of the episode. Ahsoka spends like a day recovering, and then of course Hera talks with Mom Mothma and basically being recalled and has to basically testify before the Senate committee, and if she doesn't want to lose her command, and that would be best if Ahsoka went to also testify because that increases her chances. So I have a feeling what happened at the end of the episode and the testimony from all the other New Republic officers there might just be like, yeah, okay, well, you definitely may have made the right call there. But kind of circling back, during that moment, before that moment actually, Ahsoka uses a commentary which probably she's not as skilled at as Cal Kestis, but still possesses the ability to do that, to figure out what occurred after she fell off the cliff and went into the War Between Worlds between Skull and Sabine. And then she also is just thinking on how to approach. Should I approach this, how they're gonna find Sabine and everyone else? Well, she looks up and sees the Purgo and she knows what to do. And should I also mention during this, she's finally wearing her white robe that we saw in the epilogue of Star Wars Rebels. She's gone through the journey she needed. There's still more she can learn, but her main story arc is complete. I don't think I expected to be completed this quickly, but her main story arc that has been her overall encompassing character pretty much since the end of season 5 of Star Wars The Clone Wars, her and Sabine's story together still needs to be accomplished. But essentially, Ahsoka uses the Force to communicate to the Purgo, so her, Hu Ying, hitch a ride with the Purgo, and hopefully they'll end up where Thrawn, Ezra, Sabine, and all the rest are. Hera and Jason and the New Republic do stay behind, probably because there's only so much more Hera can use her authority to push them on this unauthorized mission. But I have a feeling the testimony from the New Republic officers seeing all the Purgo jump into hyperspace, that might just be what it takes to prevent Hera from losing her command, or maybe not, it's hard to say. But also when you clearly got the Chancellor and another senator fairly sympathetic, and probably also the senator from LaSalle as well, once he's informed of all this, probably with that could help at least, get some proponents on her side. But yeah, like I said, that kind of summarizes the episode. I know I think the most of it talking about Ahsoka's main story in here, but that's because that was the best part. Seeing Phase 1 Clone Trooper armor again in live action was amazing. Seeing live action Captain Rex also, sure it wasn't much, and it was probably mostly CGI, but still we finally got to see it. And then we got to see live action Siege of Mandalore, and man, we often say the Clone Wars isn't a kid's show, but the difference between the way they show the Siege of Mandalore in the Clone Wars and the Siege of Mandalore here is so different. It is much more brutally shown here. In fact, all the combat is shown much more brutally. Like, sure, the explosions, and all that seem, okay, they're bad, but not, the live action explosions seem much more of having an impact, much more devastating and dangerous. The battlefield is portrayed as much more smoky and grainy than normal. Granted, that could have been partially because it was a forced vision, so things weren't as clear, but at the same time, it could also be a much more accurate reflection of what the battlefield conditions look like. Hard to say, but I think it's definitely very fascinating, and just very enjoyable how they took something we saw before and made it looking so great in live action. That, I think, is going to cover nearly everything I wanted to say. I am sure, I am positive, in fact, that I am missing something. But that is what the comment section down below is for, so let me know in those comments, what did you think of this episode? I would love to hear your opinions on it. So last night, part 6 of Star Wars Ahsoka aired, the title being Far, Far Away, which I gotta say is just a perfect title for it, but this was another phenomenal episode. I still think I like Shadow Warrior a bit more, but this was another excellent episode. While not as much going on in terms of character development and all that, there are some hints at the way characters are going to go for their story, the things they're going to need to overcome, but also hints at the larger plot that is going on, building that up so that way the remaining character story that still needs to be told will be able to be done by the actions that are going to occur because of the plot. I can kind of see them, okay, we did character, now we need to do the actual plot so that way they can come together in the next episodes. At least that is what I'm thinking. But overall, I thought it was a phenomenal episode and I very much did enjoy it. So last night, the 6th episode of Star Wars Ahsoka aired, that being part 6, Far, Far Away. If you would like to avoid spoilers, I released a spoiler-free short earlier today. It will be linked in the cards and down below. So check that out if you haven't watched the episode yet and want to avoid spoilers. But if you either have seen it or you don't mind spoilers, well, this is a review for you. So this episode, like I said, is titled Far, Far Away. The opening of it is pretty much just Ahsoka and Huyang traveling inside the Purgo, which got some neat shots there, and talking about the stories told at the Jedi Temple. And then there's a few other things going on, like Ahsoka shares with Huyang that she did not share with Hera, that the fact that Sabine willingly gave the map back to Balin and the others, and also talking about some other stuff too. But it basically ends with, a little bit of Ahsoka, I think, deflecting the conversation back to those old stories and saying, Huyang, pick a story to tell, what stories they would have told to younglings, and he begins with, basically, I think, if I remember correctly, a galaxy far, far away, which is also the title, because it's set in a galaxy far, far away from the main Star Wars galaxy. But I do kind of like they were able to incorporate that common Star Wars trope, if you will, at the beginning of most Star Wars stories into the story in a fun and exciting way. But that's not too, well, maybe a little bit on the nose, but I don't care. I enjoyed it. But the bulk of the episode is set on this planet, in this galaxy far, far away from the Star Wars galaxy. And so they do arrive out of hyperspace and all that, and apparently lots of the Purgo, the space whales, well, that is apparently where they go to die. So do we have like an elfin graveyard situation going on here? It's almost what it seems like to me. But they do arrive on the planet and they meet 3 witches of Dathomir. So apparently the Dathomirian witches are not native to the Star Wars galaxy, which is interesting. Oh man. The Dathomirians were complicated in legends. It only fits as they're going to be complicated in canon as well. It only fits. But now basically, 3 basically mothers of the Night Sisters are there. Or the Dathomirian witches, which, I think one's called Red Mother, but apparently they were the ones communicating with, why can't I remember her name? I should know it. Morgan Elsbeth. And I gotta say, and it seems like they will communicate with her on Thrawn's behalf, who's enlisted their services to give him an edge, probably because their dark magic, which he does at least acknowledge that it is dark magic, so that's something. And yes, Thrawn does make his appearance. I'm kind of jumping ahead, but hey, this is my spoiler review. But anyhow, so Sabine is basically still taken prisoner, but after she's led to another cell. So that's basically when Thrawn arrives to greet Morgan Elsbeth and also Balin and all that. And he arrives aboard his Star Destroyer, the Chimera, which definitely has seen better days. And then we get a look at the stormtroopers. They look like they have been customizing their armor in some fashion. And Thrawn's captain of the guard has like a weird gold mask on his stormtrooper helmet. It is weird, so things have not been kind to them. And like Thrawn's uniform is not pristine white, again reflecting, I think, things have not been kind to them on this planet in exile. But yeah, so it's apparently they got 3 rotations or 3 days before they can leave again because of the preparations they have to make loading some kind of cargo. What is this cargo? That is what I am wondering. But anyhow, at some point, basically Thrawn lets Sabine go to find Ezra with the intention that, granted he does try to make Sabine think that Ezra might be dead, but the intention is that she'll find Ezra and then Baylan and Shin will follow, unbeknownst to Ezra and Sabine, and then kill both of them. And like I say, Sabine does find Ezra. First, she does have to defeat some bandits. Then she comes across I'm going to call them the native inhabitants of the planet, the actual people who live there, and they lead Sabine to their village, and she finds Ezra there. And Ezra has learned their language. I wonder if the Force has communicated. But apparently they don't stay in one place too long because it probably starts from predators, bandits, and probably also the Empire too, is my guess. Oh, Thrawn's remnant, I should say in this case. But yeah, so there's that. Though Sabine she can tell she's happy to see Ezra, and Ezra's happy to see her. She is hiding from Ezra that she basically had to make a deal with the devil to get there. She doesn't have a ship to take him home, and she doesn't know that Ahsoka and Huyang are following in a purgo. She doesn't, Ezra does not know that. Neither does Sabine as well, but yeah. I have a feeling, could that cause some friction if she doesn't tell him on the sooner side? Because he needs to know that stuff, know that Thrawn now has a way to get off the planet and return to the galaxy. All that stuff Ezra does need to know. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. But like I kind of mentioned in my spoiler review, this episode is doing a lot more setup. There's not too many major plot beats, but we're learning more about, I think, what's going to be the overarching story with Thrawn and all that. But I also think we're getting a hint into the character development that Sabine still needs to go through. Yes, Ahsoka has gone through the majority of her character development, but she and Sabine still need to have that reconciliation. But it looks like there's other things that Sabine still needs to learn. She's so focused on being happy in the moment that she's found Ezra and they're reconnecting, that she's endangering the galaxy at large by not telling him all the information he should and needs to know. But that's what we're probably going to figure out in episode 7 and 8. So we're going to just wait on for that. But that's all I have for today. This has been mostly a plot summary more than a review per se. But again, these plot elements are the review. These are what is being set up, the overarching plot. So that way we can have the emotional, the character story. This is set up, and that does need to happen every so often to be able to tell a story successfully. The exposition, but I gotta say, it was damn good exposition, and I really did enjoy it, and I really liked the stuff they introduced. And I really like seeing more kind of, still very much Empire and Imperial, and still following lots of procedures, but also, Thrawn was definitely, I'm not gonna say more lenient, but he was much more open as a commander than many other Imperials. So the idea that he's letting his stormtroopers do some form of customization makes sense. Keep them together, keep them from becoming bandits. I do like seeing that stuff. It gets an insight into his command style that, even after all these years, he's managed to effectively maintain control of the ship. Though, I do want to say, it's just a chimera. Did all the other Star Destroyers that got sent by the Purgo into hyperspace not survive unlike his? Just something to take a note of. So last night, Part 7 of Star Wars Ahsoka premiered, so this is my spoiler-free review of Dreams and Madness. This was another phenomenal episode. We got some great insight into really all of our characters, what's going on in their heads, and I mean all of them. Ezra, Sabine, Thrawn, Shin, Balin, Morgan Elsbeth. We get insight into all of their character motivations, some more so than others. I'll be explaining that all in my full review, but I gotta say, this was a phenomenal episode, gave us great insight into basically our main characters, both villain and antagonist. So I think this was another great episode. And also we got a little bit of Herod going on as well too. I forgot to mention that. I'm only mentioning it here because it's mentioned in the description, but I'm going to leave it at that. And just let you know, my full review will be coming out later. So last night, part 7 of Star Wars Ahsoka premiered, the episode being called Dreams and Madness. So this is going to be my full spoiler review, so if you have not yet seen the episode, either check out my spoiler-free review, link in the cards, or go ahead and watch the episode, or in fact, how about you do both? But anyhow, just to recap my spoiler-free review, I saw this episode did a lot for establishing a lot of our character motivations, and giving us insight into said characters. So let's start off with Ahsoka. Not too much needs to be really established with her. Yes, a little bit, I want to, make sure Thrawn doesn't bring war to the galaxy, reconnecting with Sabine, finding Ezra, all that stuff kind of standard. But the main thing is, her and Sabine, because, they had a rocky master and apprentice relationship and still do, but you can definitely sense a lot of her character motivations at this point in the story is connecting with Sabine again, and more of a proper connection, force connection to be a good Jedi master for Sabine. Pretty simple as that. Now Sabine, a big part of her character motivation up to now was, finding Ezra. That was a big motivating factor for her. Well, she found Ezra now, and again, she's still not quite telling Ezra everything that's going on, though now that Ahsoka is there, she'll probably feel much more comfortable doing it. But definitely her motivation now, especially after the events of the episode, are going to be in relation to probably, I think, stopping Thrawn now that the goal of finding Ezra has been achieved for her. For Ezra, simple enough. Figure out what's going on. Basically get caught up on everything that's happened, which Sabine largely did. I'm going to say largely. And then getting back home. As well as helping protect. This was shown as to protect the people, the planet that he's been living with. Who are just, the peaceful pacifists. Who, whenever they attack, simply just either try to get away from danger, or just throw things like, rocks or pans or whatever they have on hand at the attacker to try to get away. Because they're pacifists, they're peaceful, they're not, warriors. And then, of course, so that's mostly them, but lots of the more interesting motivations are shown with the antagonist. So Balin, we still don't know what it is, but it clearly does not lie with the whatever's going on with Thrawn and his Imperial Remnant and the Empire in general. He has some other motivations to the point that he basically that Shin take lead and he doesn't do anything besides a short duel with Ahsoka, which Ahsoka does win by using a little trickery by, using Hu Yang fires, I think just like some concussion missiles at the ground to bring up some smoke so that way Sabine can get away from the duo to help Ezra and Sabine defeat the Raiders. But Balin leaves Shin behind, basically. Or Mo tells Shin to go ahead that their paths are now departing. Which, gotta say something, is not something Thrawn was expecting either. And I think that's throwing a bigger wrench into Thrawn's plans than he is letting on. But his plans is definitely to get back to the main galaxy. Where his goals there are going to be still up in the air, besides probably trying to reform the Empire somehow. I mean, that's what he did in Legends. But largely, his plans have been thrown into chaos by Balin not taking part of the battle. So he still swung it to his advantage by basically that short battle, even though they did not win the battle. It delayed Ahsoka and Sabine and Ezra and all that, basically wasting time for them while the Empire, while his forces were able to continue on doing what they were doing. So Thrawn definitely thinks time is on his side now. But he's probably unnerved by the fact that Balin was not as reliable as he was led to believe. And I think that's going to throw a wrench in Thrawn's plans. Also, Morgan Elsbeth's character, I guess what? She's basically taking Pelion's role in this episode where Thrawn has to explain his plans to her. Though, I do want to say, unlike Rebels, they did a lot more of Thrawn reacting, stating what he's planning on doing, and even stating how that even though he lost, how this will benefit him because of the distraction it served him. And that kind of stuff, and also, when he learned that Ahsoka's master was Anakin, he immediately figured out that, okay, that he needs to basically hold his forces in reserve and respond more to what Ahsoka is doing than the other way around, so that way he can basically use what he has to the maximum, because he was expecting Ahsoka to do basically, not necessarily reckless, but daring. Things that could definitely throw a wrench into his plans. Then there is, of course, Shin, and this episode, the event, I think, shook her. Her master basically doesn't join in the fight, basically almost abandons her, saying that their paths diverge, that, basically gives her some advice on how to ascend with her ambition, and just leaves her that. And then, of course, also, she's defeating the duel, some confusion, and Ahsoka lets her go. First offers, of course, to help her, and then she runs away. But I think the theory that she could possibly betray Thrawn and all that is holding some water now. And then I think that's pretty much most of the character stuff going on. Sure, I can talk about lots of the plot elements. Oh, also, yeah, the Night Troopers, so Thrawn Stormtroopers, yeah, they're not zombies, because I think we were just seeing some evidence in this episode given the firefight. But overall, this was a phenomenal episode. I think it did pretty good. I think I addressed a lot of the character beats, character stories I think will come into play in later episodes. But that's just what I think. Like I said, I thought this was a good episode. I really enjoyed the insight we've gotten into each of these characters, either where the motivations lie, where the character story may be progressing, or just simply what they're currently doing. And I gotta say, this was some of the best Thrawn ever. I thought Thrawn was pretty good in Star Wars Rebels, but this, being able to see more of his thought process, the idea, he's getting this piece of information and he adjusts his plans according to each piece of information. Sure, when he found out Ahsoka's master was Anakin, he totally changed his strategy going after her, figuring that he needs to be more careful with his forces to respond appropriately. And then, when he realizes that Baylan was not joining the fight, he knew something else was off, and I think that partially contributed his decision to withdraw his forces, because he achieved basically what he needed to achieve, i.e. gain some time, and so any secondary objective he was willing to essentially forsake, to let go, because of the wrench that Baylan's thrown in, thinking ahead, and then also showing his intelligence to his surroundings by basically explaining his plans, and how even in a defeat he was able to still etch out a victory, which is very much in Thrawn's character. But yeah, that's all I have for today. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. So last night, the 8th and final episode of Star Wars Ahsoka aired, so this is going to be my spoiler-free review of The Jedi, The Witch, and The Warlord. First of all, that title is clearly a play off of The Lion, The Witch, and The Wardrobe. In all seriousness, this was a fantastic season finale. I think it left the season off a good point. The main story that was being told in season 1 has been told, but has also left the hanging fruit, the cliffhangers that will set up season 2. Namely, the stuff that they finished is the story that they've been doing between Ahsoka and Sabine, which makes sense for the main story that they wanted to tell, and a few other things as well. But if I address any of the other stories, I feel like I'm going to be spoiling it while mentioning Ahsoka and Sabine. Not too much, because that's been set up in other previous episodes. But my full review is coming out later today, so drop by and see that if you want to see my full thoughts on this episode. Last night, the 8th and final episode of Star Wars Ahsoka premiered, the episode being entitled The Lion, the Witch, and the Warlord. So to begin off, if you haven't seen the episode yet, this is going to be a spoiler review. If you would like to see my spoiler-free review, it will be linked in the cards and in the description. So let us just jump right onto the episode and talk about the title, The Jedi, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Sorry, not Wardrobe, Warlord. But that is a nice transition into the fact that this title is clearly a play on The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I think it's just a perfect title, and it really does address a lot of what's going on. Ahsoka, Morgan Elsbeth, and so on. Though the Jedi can also refer to Ahsoka. I already mentioned Ahsoka, but also Sabine and Ezra, and at different points you could say it refers to all three of them, even though it is singular. Then again, Jedi, well, Jedi is not grammar, Jedi is plural either way, so all three. But that's actually the one thing I want to address, the Jedi. Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra, the three Jedi of this series and of this episode in particular. All of them get their stories completed. Ezra gets to return home, though Ahsoka and Sabine do not. Though I have a feeling it's probably a good thing, because wherever Baylan is up to, they're going to need to be around to stop him. But going back to Ahsoka and Sabine, their story is complete. Now, their individual character stories, I think, were largely completed already, especially for Ahsoka with a few parts back when she got her World Between Worlds of Force Division and closure on what happened with Anakin. But this episode is really closing what's going on between them, the kind of conflict they've been having, and you can tell at the end of the episode they firmly are proper master and apprentice. The friction between them probably is still there, but it's now a healthy friction, not going to negatively impact either of them. And I think what helped them a lot is actually a conversation that Ezra had with Huying, that Ahsoka wasn't there, but Sabine was there for that. Basically, Ezra was building a new lightsaber and was looking for a part, frustrating Huying, makes perfect sense. And when Huying found out that canon, so Caleb, as Huying would have known him, was Ezra's master, he found one part that he gave to Ezra that was the one piece he was looking for. I don't know if Ezra was cognitively thinking that, but it was the same type of emitter that Kanan had, which makes sense. And Huying said he only had two of them, and he kept the second one in case Caleb ever needed a replacement. Well, now it's on Ezra's new lightsaber, so connecting that master and apprentice. And that's something a lot going on, the connection between the master and the apprentice. They address that a lot in this series and in this story in particular. And a big part of that is I think to help resolve that character conflict between Ahsoka and Sabine. And when Sabine overhears Huying basically tells Ezra there's nothing as strong as the bond between a master and apprentice besides the friction and between them and the frustration. And I think that puts a lot of basically her and Ahsoka's master and apprentice relationship in place for her, and enables, I think, helps her to stop holding back. And because this is the episode where Sabine finally connects to the Force and uses the Force. Before, yes, you could definitely tell there were moments when she was connecting with it, but it's more like in the Chirrut Emery sense, not knowing the Force is there and all that, but not really being able to use it like a Jedi typically does. And she does it in a moment of desperation, which kind of doesn't make sense, feet over the fire in a sense, but she's able to put her lightsaber to her so she could defeat a Night Death Trooper, I guess? I'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah, and she's able to defeat them, and then that gives her an opening to help distract the other one so Ezra could defeat the one he was fighting. But yeah, so their stories are nicely all wrapped up. But also Thrawn's story and Morgan Elsman's story. So let's talk about the witch now from the title, and that being Morgan Elsman, and also probably the Great Mothers as well for the Night Sisters, who basically can confer her a Night Sister soul, which was called the Blade of Talisman. Mother Talisman from Star Wars The Clone Wars, anyone? I'm pretty sure that's what I referenced to. Of course, her story does not end positively, because I guess it is positive if you know from the perspective right here, is because Ahsoka defeats her in a duel. So, Morgan Elsman is no more, to put it bluntly. And really, her story, I think, is, she thought she was getting all she wanted, and all she got was to be sacrificed for the Great Mothers and Thrawn's own goals, wherever those end up being. And then Thrawn, he gets to return to the galaxy, and we gotta wait to see what happens next. But that cargo he's delivering for the Night Sisters, yeah, he's definitely delivering probably, I think, corpses of other Night Sisters to Dathomir. And that could be quite a problem, because he does arrive at Dathomir. And I have a feeling those corpses will be reanimated, and it's going to probably be problematic for everyone. So speaking of reanimated corpses, we finally get zombie stormtroopers, or zombie night troopers. So about a few episodes back, kind of confirmed that the night troopers weren't zombies. I don't think they were zombies until this episode, and only a select few of them are zombies. Namely those that got stayed behind basically as a sacrifice, and basically when they're first defeated, they were basically turned into zombies so they continued to distract Ezra, Ahsoka, and Sabine from stopping Thrawn. And they do fail because those zombie night troopers successfully defeat them. And I think, now those two death troopers, I don't know if they're zombies or not, but they're definitely fighting, and it looks like they may have some best gun plate in the armor, given they were able to deflect some blaster bolts pretty effectively. But I gotta say, while I'm not the biggest fan of zombies as a genre, I gotta say it was pretty interesting to see zombie stormtroopers, just keep on fighting and really being able to take a lot of damage, where like the only thing that seems to actually stop them is some kind of attack towards the head, or actually really kind of any kind of slicing attack, really. Blaster bolts don't defeat them, but anything that goes through a right organ seems to actually defeat them, it seems. But yeah, so that was a twist I wasn't expecting, but I really liked how they did it. Not only did they save for the last episode, probably setting up what's going to happen with those, what I'm suspecting on Night Sister corpses, but it also keeps some of the craziness out there and kind of shows, the tactics Thrawn is choosing to implement to slow down Ahsoka, given what he knows of Anakin. And he knows a lot of Anakin. I think he alludes to that when he sends one final transmission to Ahsoka. And actually, it's the only time he actually talks to Ahsoka this entire time. But basically, he laments that they did not get meet face to face, and basically brags about being able to defeat her, but also so that he did it because he knew who her master was. Again, connecting to that theme of master and apprentice relationships that's been popping up a lot in this series. We have Ahsoka and Anakin, Ahsoka and Sabine, Ezra and Kanan to a certain extent as well. So that theme is keep on popping up, and how you can figure out certain things about certain Jedi based off of who their master was, both the good and the bad. But while Ahsoka realizes in her journey that she's able to move beyond the bad that Anakin harbored, I think Thrawn thinks there's still a possibility that the bad, the darkness that Anakin had, because Thrawn knows Vader and Anakin are one and the same, because he calls Ahsoka a Ronin. Not a Jedi, Ronin. So I think he's thinking that there's a chance she may turn to the dark side because of what he thinks he knows about her master. But in fact, he doesn't know enough, if you will. He's misunderstanding, I think, that relationship. Well, he's overestimating his enemy once again. He admits that he overestimated and did not properly plan for, as he called it, Jedi tricks. He mentioned that many Imperial officers fell for it, and even he did as well. So he did admit he did have a weakness, but now he's almost thinking he's overcome the weakness. Well, I suspect he has not fully overcome it yet. So yeah, we talked about all that stuff. Oh, should I mention is Ezra gets away by stealing Stormtrooper armor, so he has a new bucket to add to his collection. I had to mention that. And the first one to approach him when he lands on the New Republic ship, which by the way is nicely mirroring the opening, same shuttle, different New Republic ship, but still, I like that mirroring there. Chopper's the one who shows up first, which is like, of course, because Chopper was often portrayed very much like a pet. Droids often are in Star Wars, especially astromechs, since they don't communicate they communicate binary rather than in, what's in US called basic, what we call language English, or whatever language you happen to be watching the show in. Makes sense, because, as a quote-unquote a surrogate for a cat, yeah, sure, he'll be a bit grumpy, but he also, like, when the cat trusts you, you're good. But yeah, so that's just another thing I just wanted to throw out there. So that does make me wonder, could Jason be trained by Ezra next? I mean, continuing a new master and apprentice relationship. It's just a solid speculation. It's just something I had in the back of my head for quite some time, actually. But going back to the everything going pretty, the last stuff I really want to talk about are the final scenes. I already mentioned the final scene with Ezra, but Ahsoka and Sabine, after they successfully escape and all that, them and Huyang, they're living with the local inhabitants. Nati, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. So they're going there. Then we, they're settling in pretty nicely, and I'm going to jump a little bit to the end before I talk about Baylan and Shin. But they're kind of talking about all that what has happened. Ezra finally made it home, all that. Which Ahsoka is much more confident of, probably because she has a stronger connection to the Force, so she probably can feel through the Force that Ezra made it home. Well, Sabine still needs to nurture her connection with the Force. She's finally unlocked her connection with the Force, which I have a feeling the destruction of Mando did not help her connection to the Force. I'm just saying, but she's finally unlocked it, and it's probably only going to grow from here. Oh, by the way, it's confirmed that that Sabine's family was killed in the Purge. It's tragic. I mean, it is really tragic, really sad. Her father was an artist, from crying out loud, not a warrior. Okay, the distractions are over, because there's a lot more to talk about the scene, and Sabine thinks she saw something in the light, in the streak of the light or something in the clouds or whatever. She thought she saw something, but she dismisses it as not. Ahsoka goes to take a second look, and, well, we don't see what she saw, because it's, and in fact, I think we even get over the shoulder shots and we still don't see anything. But then Ahsoka walks away, the camera changes angle once again, and it's Anakin's Force Ghost. So, that's telling us two things. One, Anakin may appear to Ahsoka again in the future, and two, Sabine's connection to the Force is growing. The fact that she thought that she did see, I think, a little bit of the shimmer of the Force Ghost, but couldn't be, because either her connection with Anakin wasn't really there, or just her simple connection with the Force wasn't there. She really did not process what she was seeing with her eyes, and I have a feeling maybe someday in the future it might become a little stronger. But yeah, I really did like that scene there, because it really puts a good close on Ahsoka's story. Sabine's story as well, she's unlocked her connection with the Force, which I think we'll see her grow in the next season and in other stories as well. But the story with Ahsoka and her journey dealing with basically what happened with her master, it's pretty much unspoken, but all totally so excellent to the storyline overall, that seeing Anakin's Force Ghost, I think, is cementing the end of that story for her. She still has the story that's being told with Sabine and all that's been set up in this episode, but that part of her story is complete. There's no more loose threads there. It's now what's going to happen in the future. The past is not holding Ahsoka back anymore. So now let's talk about Shin and Baylan. So Shin, she settles in with, she basically raises her lightsaber above her head and ignites it, and when she's approaching the Raiders camp, so probably she's going to settle in there and become, like, I guess, the Warlord or something. I was kind of hoping for redemption for her, but you know what, it's still possible. She probably felt like she got more kinship with them than she did with Imperial, so maybe that's why she went to them. We still gotta wait to see where her story goes. And I have a feeling it's going to connect up with Baylan's story again as well. But Baylan's story, we still don't know what he's after, but we get a little more hint as his last scene. He's standing on top of a cliff, and it looks like it's pointing, and it's a mountain. The camera changes angle, and we get to see what he's standing on top on. It's a statue of the Mortis gods. Though, something should be interesting. He's standing on, it's like carved into the rock. Kind of like Mount Rushmore or Crazy Horse when you think about it. But he's standing on basically the arm of the father pointing. And so on the father's left, that would be the viewer's right, when we actually get to see the statues, is the son from the Mortis Ark and the Mortis gods. And on the left, from our perspective, well, there's no face. But it has to be the daughter, because we also get a scene where we do finally see Morai in live action, or Morai in the owl form, the carnivore form, or whatever, I forget the exact term, which also cements Ahsoka's story ending in completion. But it does make, because some people I know speculate that Anakin's the new father in terms of Mortis gods, but I kind of don't think that's really what's going on there. There's a lot more going on there. But I did find it interesting that on this planet, the father remained, the son remained, but the daughter's statue was destroyed. I have a feeling that's going to be indicative of what's going to happen. How? I don't know, but it's something important, I think. It's important that that's the only one that was destroyed, the only statue that was destroyed. Still, what is Baylan after? We don't know. But wherever it is, Ahsoka and Sabine are there to stop him. And maybe, who knows how Shin's story will go as well. But that is all I have for you today. There is so much more I can discuss about this episode and the series as a whole. But you know what? For the series as a whole, I'll hold off a little bit. I know I discussed a little bit in this video because it's been the conclusion of the series. But next week, I'm going to be doing my full-on review for every episode, the entire season. So stay tuned for that. But if you want to talk more about this episode, and you know what, the season as a whole, the comment section is down below. I would love to hear from you and get that discussion going. So now that we've taken a look at all 8 parts of Star Wars Ahsoka, I've already addressed a little bit about my overarching thoughts, both in my intro, but also in my just review of Part 8, because how Part 8 was structured, it's intrinsic to the entire series. And that's what I really like about this. This does a good job in telling that serialized story. While sometimes I do kind of wish for a more unserialized approach to storytelling, it can be fun at times, and I really do enjoy it. Sometimes I want the more hybrid stuff, like a little bit of serialization, but still, kind of just doing its own thing in this episode. And sometimes I like it fully serialized. I think which one I would like the most is truly dependent on what is being told. If the overarching story is just more of a thing of connecting episodes together loosely, then okay. But if it's super serious, it all depends on the tone it's taking. In this story, if we wanted to tell, or if Dave Filoni had wanted to tell it with one single episode, or I should say, with each episode being disconnected, it would not have worked with the overarching story. But because it was character-driven, rather than maybe plot-driven, if you will. Yes, it was driven by the plot, but the character stories is what kept us going through each episode, and that really helped bring the plot together, because the character stories and the plot story needed to work together, because the plot was driving the character story forward, but the characters were also driving the plot forward. And that's what I really liked about this series. It did such a good job of driving it all together, with the different elements pushing themselves forward. I really did not feel like there was that much going on that was just happening for the sake of plot. Yes, I did have time, but some decisions, you can see why the character made that decision, thus why the plot moved that way, and also how the plot affected these characters and pushed them in the direction they needed to go as well. Really, probably the only part that's the most matter of plot was the war between worlds for Ahsoka, and guess what? It's the Force. Of course it's going to behave weirdly and interject itself at what would seem from another story's perspective to be an inopportune time, but that is how kind of the Force works. The Force in many ways in Star Wars is plot. It's plot armor. It's the plot interjecting into the character story. It's everything that kind of why did that happen that way? It's the way the Force wanted. The Force is quite an impressive thing in Star Wars. Sure, Han may have said in The Force Awakens, that's not how the Force works, but that was exactly how the Force works. It drives the plot forward when the characters needed that little extra boost for either their character story or the plot story, or both sometimes. But yeah, I'm kind of rambling on, but really this was a good series. I really love the direction it's going to take. I think it's going to be a lot. Whatever Sawn's doing with the witches on Dathomir is going to be bad news for the New Republic. I have a feeling some members of the New Republic are going to be like, oh, come on, you guys are just making things up. But people like, Hera, Mom Mothra, Leia are going to be like, yeah, we need to take care of something. And I could kind of see maybe some of the connection that Leia has that help from resistance. They might start be getting laid down here as hero. I'm just saying, it's something I would love to see, because there's so much exciting stuff really going on. We have whatever Balin's doing. He's obviously searching for, I think, some kind of power source. Either he wants to stop the cycle of war, or he wants to be in control of that cycle of war. Could go either way for him. Shin still has a possibility of redemption, or she could continue going down the dark path, becoming a warlord in her own right. It could go either way. We have Ahsoka and Sabine. Yes, their story is completed, but they're going to be basically facing, I think, Shin and Balin in their individual plans now, because I don't think they're going to be connected anymore. So they could end up fighting each other, Balin and Shin. It's always possible. But there is so much going on, and so many new story avenues that were set up by the circumstances of the plot, but the character stories are all 100% complete. Rather, new character stories have been set up for them. New relationships to deal with. New challenges to face that can either to strengthen the characters or put them through trials. That is what the final of the season has done. And all the other episodes were building to this moment. And while, yes, it is a cliffhanger, it is satisfying. While there are loose threads, I feel like everyone's individual story is complete. If for some reason Ahsoka does not get picked up for season 2, I feel like the story is complete, mostly. I still want you to figure more about Baden. He's like the only one whose story is not properly complete, but that's because we really didn't get a lot into him. He remained a man of mystery, if you will. He had this air of mystery that was never quite solved, and I think that was deliberate because his story, he wasn't in the place for his story to be told until season 1 ended. Unfortunately, as if I remember correctly, the actor who played Bannon passed away after filming, but before the season aired, so that could pose a challenge in how they're going to tell Banon's story going forward. Hopefully they don't do deep fake. I would not appreciate that, and I don't think the actor would like it. I hope. I can't really speculate too much, but I would wish. But maybe they'll find an actor who can do a good job, or maybe they'll find some way to hand-wave his story complete. Maybe his story is going to be finished by the fact that what he's searching for doesn't exist, and therefore it can be wrapped up super quickly. But you know what? These are just my thoughts. What are yours? The comment section is down below. Let's really get this discussion going, because lots of the stuff that was set up is going to be rife for speculation, but please speculate responsibly. So thank you for watching, and as always, have a good day, and good night, wherever you are. May the Force be with you, always. Thank you for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give this video a like, as well as subscribe to my channel and ring that bell to stay up to date on my latest content. Also, be sure to check out the link tree in the description, as well as any other links I have down there.